What's up, creepers and geekers? Chris, the Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to the Milieu Macabre, where we continue our Ruby DL-44 Han Solo blaster modification build, whatever you want to call it. So, after looking over all the parts overnight and just handling them and trying to figure out what direction I want to go in, I said we're going to work on this exclusively. Let's get the main body 100% ready, and then from there we can go on to fitting the scope and making the muzzle be appropriate. So what we're going to do today is, if I can get it all done in one video, I want to fill this void, and maybe some up in here as well, with some weight. I want to fill it up, make it solid, substantial. So I think what we're going to do with that is we're going to use the tried and true method of hot glue and just random crap. I got a toolbox that has a gajillion nuts, bolts, screws, nails, fasteners, all kinds of just random metal bits. I might even grab some pebbles out of the yard. We got tons of that. It'll just be a method of squirting in a little bit of glue, putting in a couple items, letting it set up, a little bit more glue. You want to do that in stages because if you put too much hot glue in here, it could heat up the plastic and warp it. Or worse, and it's happened to me in the past. So, yeah, so I'm going to get going on that. But the first thing I need to do is, if you look right there, where it doesn't quite seal up, I mean, if I pinch it, it will. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for little spots like that all over here. I'm thinking that's just my main concern. I'm just going to put a layer of super glue, let it seep in there, and just hold it until it sets. And that way, nothing leaks out as I'm starting to fill it. So let me get this filled up, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Alright guys, I got it all filled in, and I know that looks like a lot of glue, but believe it or not, it's more stuff than it is glue. And then a good cap of glue on the top. And I even put a couple sticks of glue in this direction here, just to kind of fill in between so it wouldn't be so much glue. Because again, the heat from the glue will actually fuck up the plastic, and I don't want that to happen. And so I do it in like little squirts here and there, just enough to keep whatever's in there, in there. I'll even put it in the freezer, you know, sitting in whatever position I need it for the glue to make its way into the crevices of whatever it is I put in there. And I'll let the freezer cool it quicker. That way the heat doesn't have time to warp the plastic. So now I need to go through a whole bunch of stuff. I want to start building up on the structure here to seal off the gun itself. I want to start working basically from here back for now. And then eventually get the hammer made and attached to this. I have a couple of bins and boxes and stuff here. This is all from a Nerf gun that was given to me to make a custom weapon out of, and I took it apart and never got any further than that. This is all parts from a G.I. Joe helicopter that I couldn't even give away. I tried to give it away, no one wanted it. So I took it apart and just left it in this baggie. So I think between these two boxes and some ingenuity, I could start actually making this look pretty legit, and then we'll work our way forward. I found this piece in the helicopter parts bag, and I'm probably going to use this one of two ways. This will fit in there like that, if I have the camera on it. Doesn't quite make it to the top, but that's alright, we can figure it out. Or if I chop this nub off, leave the rest of it on there, I could put it in there and hold on to it until it sets. What I'll probably do is lock it in at the bottom with some hot glue, and then put some epoxy and or super glue in here and just squeeze it together. So this piece here, regardless of how I use it, will work out just fine. And then what we'll do is we'll leave this open for when I make the hammer. And that way I can set the hammer perfectly in there, and then we'll just fill around it with epoxy putty. I think that's going to work out great. And then we'll worry about filling that spot right there. Alright, I have never once claimed to be a bright individual, okay? I didn't want to block it all the way down that way. I wanted to get it in there to block that gap. So that long thin piece I was going to use, I put it behind where you see this blocky piece now, okay? And conveniently enough, it fit there perfectly, and it's got a nice little hole there for me to put like a firing pin or something to that effect. So let me get some putty work done way in the back corner here, and then what we'll do is we'll get the hammer ready. We'll pop that fucker in there, and then we'll make sure it's secure with both hot glue and then some putty work. We'll clean that up, and then we'll work our way down the gun. Alright, so I got the hammer in this nifty little tabletop clampy vicey McVicerson kind of thing. I filled it with resin, and hopefully that'll be cured and solid here pretty soon. And I don't know if I'm going to drill the hole first and then build around it, or build around it and pray it doesn't break when I drill the hole. But we'll get a hammer here pretty soon. Alright, I think I pretty much got it where I need it to be. You know, I'm not even going to worry about this whole circular thing. It is what it is, you know. I'll just leave it like that. Yeah, it worked out pretty well. On to the next thing. So we got a bunch of putty work done. I got in here all set up and ready to go. Even while it was still cured, I jammed this where it needed to go, so there's a nice little seat for it. So that worked out pretty well. I started working up here. I filled this gap, and I just laid some across here, so once I sand it, that seam between these three pieces, 1, 2, 3, will be completely seamless. Started building up here. There is a ridge that goes straight across. I know it's tough to see with the white. But I started working on that. A little more work is needed there. And I had a little bit more putty left over, so I filled the 1 of 2 only screw holes that I'm going to need to fill. As far as this black paint, I didn't mention it earlier. Before I put down the battery cover, I just wanted a little bit of paint underneath it and on the edges. In the event that once I start spraying, if it doesn't find its way into the little crevices, I don't want this orange line. So in the event that that could possibly happen, whatever. So another thing I'm noticing is this big hunk here. I was originally going to build it across, but it's very bulky compared to what's actually on the real weapon. If you look here, I mean, it's kind of there. So if you look at this piece here, and I think this is what we're going to work on next, it's made up of 3 pieces. You got this main flat thing here, this thing that's going on top of it, and then something wedged behind it. So I'm thinking about doing is removing this and then building this just to kind of sit in the body of the gun. So that's next right there. I'm sorry to keep going back and forth on this, but after looking at this picture, I noticed up front here, I knew I was going to have to put something there, but then I realized it's much lower than this. So I'm going to end up using that orange piece for down here. It's just going to be a matter of how high, because then I can build up over in here with the rest of this stuff. Luckily, I do have 2 of these, so I'm just going to get working on that. I might have to fill in a little bit underneath this so it'll rest level. I think that's about the height I'm going to need, and then the other one I will build on top of that, and, you know, just blend it in with a piece that kind of looks like that. I'm trying to find something that looks like this, and believe it or not, finding something like this right here is really tough. I don't have anything that's flat and thick like that, so right now, we're just going to go with this, and moving forward from there. So I got that in the position in which it needs to be in. A little bit of filling here on the top, but that'll be easy enough to do once I get everything up here put together. It might even just be shimmed and then filled with putty. I don't know. So I wanted to work on this back piece like I was mentioning, and I had another one of these I had to cut down just slightly to make it, you know, to make it work lengthwise. And it's going to work just fine. But I really just wanted to find a piece that looks somewhat like this. And it's always the stupidest little things that I can't find. Again, I'm not trying to go 100% accurate, but I would like the gun itself, if it were just the Mauser, to look somewhat, you know, respectable, so to speak. So I'm going to have to try to figure out something for this simple little piece here, because my brain will not get over that little hump there on the end. It will not. This was simple enough. I just put a few pieces of plastic together and I could just jam it in there. And I think I have a solution for these little, I think they're like bearings to help put the scope up. But regardless, we'll work on this later. Until I either get over the fact that I don't have anything that looks exactly like that, or I just fabricate one. So let's work on this area right here. Now I have a bunch of these marker caps, and I had cut one of these in half to use this top piece on another project, which left me with this. And this just so happens to pop on perfectly. So a little bit of super glue, and that's going to work out just fine. And there's also a screw that goes back into that hole that will complete the look, but after I paint. So I got that one all worked out. Now, talking about these two here, I was originally just going to either build on them or just find something to wrap around it, much like I did with this. And then I came across this in my bin. I have this big plastic bin of just random pieces and parts of just whatever. And it's got some nifty knurling if I can get it to focus on the sides. So I wasn't sure if I was going to trim off the threads and just glue it to the top, or maybe, I don't know, grind it so it'll pop over there. I think what I'm going to try to do is, these are separate pieces, and they will pop off. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some heat and hope they come off, even though there's a bunch of hot glue in there. I'm questioning on whether or not I'm going to be able to. And if I can't, what I'll do is I'll just trim off the threads to a certain point so that this is somewhat raised up, but not as much. And then maybe just adhere it center. The only problem is I could only find one of these at first. And this is great. I can't find anything that looks like that. But by weird magic, I was going through a couple of bags, and as I was putting stuff away, I found another one, an exact duplicate. I don't even know where these came from. But I was like, oh my god, I do have two. I was literally going to press this into some mold putty and just make a couple pieces, but I have two of them. So I'm going to initially try to pop these off and then see if I can't just slip this down. Maybe sand away some of the threading down there so it just doesn't look like a cap or something I just glued on there. And if I can't do that, then I'll probably just trim these down and affix them to this with some super glue. And then I'll probably drill a screw in the middle of here just to, you know, give it a little more authenticity. Well, never mind the hot water. They just popped right off. I had to use a pair of pliers. But there was actually zero effort to it. The hot glue didn't quite make it into the little crevices. So those popped off pretty easy. So these now can just go right here. And again, I got this piece. And I'll pop a screw in the middle of both of these once everything's done. And the screw that belongs in there. And I think that's going to look just fine. So I'm going to get that all glued up. And yeah, so that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it for today. I would like to have gotten this completely finished, but que sera, sera. You know, you do what you can do. I'll try to put this together here in the next few days. I got tomorrow off too because of the holiday, so I'll have some time to play around with that. Maybe I'll just fabricate this piece out of putty and just leave it be for a little bit. So just to give you a little insight as to where my brain goes when it comes to putting this shit together, I wanted to fill these voids just for shits and giggles. So it just so happens my glue sticks fit perfectly in there. So I dabbed a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of this, put it in there. I'm waiting for it to set. And I'm just going to lop it off. That way there's more surface space for the glue that I'm going to put in here to grab onto. I'm going to do that for both of these. And then secure these with a combination of hot glue and super glue. And we should be all set there. Let me know in the comments what you think. How's this coming along? We should have it done here pretty soon. I'm hoping anyway. So that's really all there is to it. So guys, thank you as always so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Go ahead and leave feedback. Thumbs up, thumbs down. All feedback to the Creep is positive. And until next time, take care. Hope you're doing well. Creep it real. And bye-bye.